whenever it's been a while, I just want to continue to have that song go, just because I like it so much. And maybe Gnome King, you're right. Maybe we'll get there one day. Welcome to Vagabond Nerds. We have been gone for just a little bit because, quite frankly, we just were. Not a lot of stuff. We didn't want to spoil Batman or the Batman on day one for anybody. But with all that said, welcome to today's show. With us, of course, Sean, co-host, myself, Ray, and co-host to every podcast out there that you have yet to watch, Jason McLean. Jason, thank you for gracing us with your presence this one time a month, because we know that you're on everyone else's podcast right now.
We appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule, bud. We really do.
Question for you. Is there any podcast you're currently not doing? Because I got a call from Joe Rogan who said that I wasn't even supposed to be talking to you on our show today.
It's true.
Because you were supposed to be there.
Well, no, I appreciate, first time, long time. But yeah, there's at least like 2 or 3 out there that I haven't done yet. And, it's the way it goes. But eventually I will be an all-consuming presence.
I swear you are the Amazon/Disney of podcasting.
Yeah, I haven't seen him on Trey and Abed in the morning yet, but eventually I'm sure he will be.
I will be.
That's tomorrow. Don't jump ahead of it, Sean.
Yeah. Don't get ahead of the story.
No, they don't do Sunday shows. They don't do Sunday shows.
Oh
yeah, actually I do.
For Jason,
they're
making
trying to find my way on to what's his name, Charlemagne the God. I'll find my way on there.
So you're setting up your move to slide into Twitch streaming is what you're going for, right? You're going to slide into that video game.
He's sliding in there, all right.
And philosophical world where you get to cross, the great philosophers, the Platos, the Aristotles, the works of the, current themes in Minecraft, and strange times and day and things like that, right? That's
absolutely, yeah.
So
the
here's
theology
the thing.
of Minecraft is something that's not really been fully explored on Twitch.
It's a completely untapped market. It's complete. I mean, you've got
absolutely.
You can corner that easily. I could. Yeah. 100%. Well, good for you, Jason. That's awesome.
So bad on electronics and games is that's why those broadcasters, those podcasters, they want them on their show because they're just like, sir, how do you look at a video game and it just shuts off?
Well, I think they're actually more interested in how he's been, sticking with these podcasts as a consistent co-host, and they haven't crashed all their streams.
It's a gift.
How haven't you crashed all their streams yet, McLean?
I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm like, how is this stuff still working? But whatever.
Ironically, we are the podcast that no one listens to, so you're okay here. Feel free to say whatever you want to say, my friend. No one's going to care. Yeah. I barely care today.
Oh, I don't even care.
Jason, you want to start the show for us, bud?
Well, since I am I guess I am guest co-hosting, so sure, why not? I might as well
take it away, man. Take it away.
Welcome to Vagabond Nerds, brought to you by Jeremy over at Titan Comics. He is your provider for all your finest comics and geeky wear, accoutrement, one may say. Today we're going to definitely be discussing the recent release of The Batman, the latest reboot of the infamous DC hero. However, we will also be covering the trailers for Kenobi and Sonic 2. Back to you, Ray.
Is that what we're doing today?
No. Well, yeah, I mean, we're doing those things,
okay.
But...
I mean, we're going to talk about The Batman, and we're going to talk about everything about The Batman in detail. So if you have not seen The Batman and you don't want to be spoiled about The Batman,
hit eject right now.
Yeah, leave eventually. Just leave eventually, because I think we're gonna touch on some, like you said, those trailers, and then discuss The Batman.
We'll start trailers first because we don't want to lose everyone right off the bat.
Hold on. One moment. Ray, you did say you want to mention this. I think probably best to just start off with this.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Really, really sad that William Hurt is no longer with us. He was in so many amazing movies. That was kind of a shocker for me. Didn't expect that. I don't think
didn't know he had cancer.
Didn't know that. Had no clue. So, really, really sad. And again, I think it's appropriate to say this. Fuck cancer.
Yep.
I really
Yeah.
would like to see that shit stop. So, but hey, he will be missed and remembered in all the great movies he was in. He was in some stellar
And he
movies,
did do a
man.
lot of stuff. Like, I mean,
A ton of stuff.
forget the Marvel stuff. Like, I
Yeah,
mean, he
yeah.
was
It's,
fantastic
even
in that. But
because Marvel to me was not like, that's not how I knew him, and when I saw
Oh
him in
yeah.
Marvel, it was kind of the same way I felt about Annette Bening when I saw her in um,
Captain Marvel. Yeah.
Captain Marvel. When I was like, oh hey, Annette Bening, it was the same thing as like I
Yeah.
saw William Hurt, and I was like, oh cool, man, William Hurt. But I remember him from all the older movies in the '90s and the '80s when I grew up watching films with him. Well, not like he and I were watching films together. I grew up watching his films. So yeah,
and
I remember from those movies.
ironically, probably one of my favorite roles that he did was not in something that caught a lot of attention. It's rated really high, but it has nothing to do with superheroes or anything else like that. It was Too Big to Fail. The
Oh
HBO
yeah.
movie
Yeah.
about the crash of the
the 2008, the housing market.
Yeah.
Okay.
Housing market.
See, I didn't even know. I didn't know he was in that. I still have never seen that, which is odd given.
Yeah.
But given what we know, right?
Yeah.
But I loved him in that movie as Henry Paulson. So it was a really I always tell people, I was like, that's one movie I'll always recommend, but I tell people, I was like, I'm only going to recommend it if you are even remotely interested, because if you're not remotely interested, unfortunately, in how that happens,
you're not going to find it fascinating.
You're going to want to bang your head against the wall. But for those of us who had an inkling of what was going on, I mean, that thing should be a movie that's required watching for anyone in those particular industries of what went wrong and how it did it.
Yeah, especially just to make sure that kind of shit doesn't happen again.
Right. Yeah, because that's not going to happen this year.
Yeah, that's not happening right now.
Anyway, but
my personal favorite was, honestly, he's my favorite Leto Atreides. He did in the Sci-Fi Channel.
Oh, that's right, in the series, right? Like the TV series. That's right.
Yeah, they did sort of this mini series, which is still, I mean, it's definitely lower budget, but the Sci-Fi Channel did this adaptation years ago. And it's definitely lower budget, but it's good. It's really, really good. And he was amazing as Leto Atreides. So it's a loss. He was a great actor. He really brought a lot to every performance, even when it is something like a Sci-Fi Channel adaptation of Dune. He brought his A game, and you could feel it.
Yeah.
He was certainly in his share of questionable roles, and I don't mean that in a like, oh my god, I can't believe he played the character. It was like, oh my god, why were they wasting his talent in this movie?
Yeah.
But no matter which movie he was in, I don't really think of a movie that I've seen him ever try to phone in a performance.
Right.
Yeah, no, 100% on that. I'm looking through some of his stuff that he did, and I mean, even if he wasn't the main character in a lot of these, to your point, Ray, he always brought his A game, and he always made the character. He played the character, and he did a good job of acting. That's the thing, is a solid foundational actor. He could act.
Jason,
I think, wasn't he I think it's actually also a very underrated movie, but the Kevin Costner serial killer film, Mr. Brooks, wasn't he the serial killer side of him that, when Kevin Costner would be talking to the serial killer, wasn't that William Hurt?
I have to go back. I think you're right, though. I think that absolutely is how.
I don't even remember seeing that movie.
I think that was his serial killer alter ego. But yeah, it was it was. There it is, Marshall. So Marshall was his alter ego. And so William Hurt played his alter ego that was basically the serial killer voice inside his head. So whenever he was having those moments talking to himself as the serial killer, William Hurt was his representation of that. And it was really good. Like, that was, I thought that was a really cool move that they did that. But yeah,
instead of just having it be another voice, instead of it still being Kevin Costner,
or like Kevin Costner doing a voiceover or something. No, it was a physical representation, almost like a Tyler Durden moment, from Fight Club, where you're having that conversation with yourself. Now he did a lot of really amazing stuff, and so it really, really sucks that he's gone. But
Jason, I was really kind of half expecting you to say his role in Michael with John Travolta.
Oh yeah,
he was good. in that.
Yeah,
That's right.
again, it's just such weird places that William Hurt would pop up, but
Mm-hmm.
um, and I don't mean this as a disrespectful thing at all, but he was definitely that actor where he was always the one actor that you're like, I know I've seen him in something, I know I've
Mm-hmm.
seen him in something. He was really good, and that's kind of
Oh, Dark City.
Yeah.
Dark City.
Oh,
Yep.
I forgot he was in that movie. Yeah.
Yep.
I love that's. I mean, that's
Yeah.
one of my all-time favorite, underrated, highly respected
absolutely.
for me movies. Love that.
Yes,
One of-
Yeah,
absolutely.
man.
One of kind of those movies that first really kind of got into the I hate saying goth, but that really truly was kind of that first feel.
No. It was. I mean, well, a little bit, but it was film noir, but it was in the '90s, and it kind of fell in
Yeah.
line of like The Crow. And to
Same
your
director.
point, I mean,
Same,
oh
yeah,
yeah, it was that's yeah.
same
So I mean,
director.
to your point, I get it where it can be a goth thing, but it was less goth and more film noir detective,
Yeah.
sci-fi noir detective, which
Sci-fi
was
noir.
It was
why I
very
liked
Blade
it.
Runner-ish.
Again, the benchmark,
Yep.
right? The
Yeah.
old school Blade Runner. That's
Yep.
that benchmark for those
Yeah.
films like that. So crossing over that science fiction with that detector
Mhm.
film noir, not like
Yeah.
like Chinatown, Jack Nicholson, Faye Dunaway, shit. That's like, yeah,
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But he'll be missed.
very much so.
Again, Sean, I think you
Oh, absolutely.
put it perfectly with what we think cancer can do to itself. Yeah. Loss and I think we'd all be remiss in saying that, and I know, Sean, you're probably gonna hate it, but I do mean it. Probably not a single day doesn't go by that I'm not wishing a good turn of events for those folks in Ukraine, and the innocents out there. That's civilians, period. No matter where, right? But certainly they're going through
Anybody who's
too.
caught up and embroiled
Mhm.
in that bullshit. Even the
Yeah.
any of the folks from Russia who don't want to be in that bullshit as well,
Yeah.
like the folks who don't want this whole thing to happen.
Mhm.
Sorry for everybody who's caught up in it.
Yeah.
My heart goes out to them.
For sure.
It does.
For sure.
And go find a cool donation site too. There's tons of sites if you want to donate to anybody to support the cause. To support families that are again caught in this, because people need they need the money for food, they need for housing, for blankets, for just shit that's getting taken away from them. War has so much collateral damage to it that we never think about until you're in it. And thankfully, we're in America, we don't see that here very often. So there's tons of great sites you can go donate to. We don't have any because we're just small.
Because we're too small. Maybe
But
one of
yeah.
Jason's other podcast ventures has it.
Maybe maybe one of them they do so. But no, there's a ton of stuff out there. Go find some good place to donate and give some people some money that could really use it.
Yeah, I know that's not something we normally talk about at all. We always kind of stay away from that, but at the same time, it wouldn't be right of us not to mention that elephant, because we're sitting here talking about crap, and there are people every day. It doesn't matter, just not Ukraine, but people every day that are fighting for their lives and lives doing something really trivial, but it's not without our realm of thought either, for sure. But all right, let's get into some happier news. The Obi-Wan teaser finally dropped.
I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen it. I honestly haven't seen it, but I don't.
A lot of
that's
dust.
Okay. It's a freaking trailer, man. So I mean, I just haven't seen it. But I don't know. I've heard people say, "Oh my gosh, Obi-Wan," and I'm like, okay, great. And as always, Ray, be careful because we'll get.
No, yeah, I'm bouncing in and out of that.
Stupid. Because
we used to be able to show
something
this
up. I know.
Yeah. Now I'm like,
Heaven
no,
forbid.
I'm going to show it on the screen so they can't say that we're trying to copyright. And
Heaven
a reason
forbid
we do this way.
You put something up on a screen and talk over it, and because it's somebody else's material and you're talking over it, they're like, "Hey, man, you can't do that. It's copyright." And you're like, "This is total bullshit." Like, it is copyright.
There are whole other channels dedicated to just watching trailers.
Exactly. Yeah, there's channels, like you said, and I mean, the same situation goes for the fact that anybody playing video games on Twitch and broadcasting, you purchased that game. It didn't mean you purchased the rights to display that game to the rest of the world, and yet there are people making millions, and I honestly do mean millions of dollars streaming this kind of stuff, streaming video games and streaming shit like this, where it's like we're looking at trailers. We've gone way off topic here. How is the trailer, Ray and Jason?
I gotta be honest, man. Like look at this. This is Star Wars meets Blade Runner, right? To a greater or lesser extent, we've had the Inquisitors for the first time in film form.
Oh, I've never seen them before. Yeah, I've never seen it before, so that's interesting.
So one quick point on that: a lot of people have been complaining because they show the main Inquisitor, right, who was introduced in Rebels, and in Rebels his head is very, very thin and narrow, right? And so someone went back and did a fan edit to make him look like that versus because he has sort of they almost made him look like he's got a bigger, rounder head. And a lot of people were complaining about that. And I'm like, can we find something else to complain about? I mean, really, it's a fictional character. Like, I know I'm the first one to be like
that guy.
Yeah, him.
Jason, but it's proven that if people complain enough, they'll change things. Look at Sonic the Hedgehog.
Which is where we're going for,
good talk.
For the next
we will.
I like that.
Good tie-in.
Yeah. I mean, so.
But that seemed way more legitimate than this. Is all I'm gonna say. Because that Sonic design was so bad.
It was.
I know. He looked like he just looked like an odd, like stringy, fluffy. Because his hair was like.
Yeah.
It was almost like they tried to make him look like he was covered in, hay tufts from a field, like where, like, when Dances with Wolves, when he's walking through the field, and their hands are dragging. It looked like he was covered in that. It was like almost wavy grassland, like, and you're just like, dude, how come when you move, it's like, what is this?
Vagabond, welcome to the show where we're talking about one trailer showing a trailer, but we're going to talk about the trailer after.
But we're talking about the other trailer that we're going to show about after this.
Well, we're not even talking about the trailer. We're talking about the original design of the character from the first movie.
Not the movie trailer that we were showing.
But not the movie trailer that we're currently talking about. Listen,
we don't do that.
No. You can get your attention focused on things at another time. This show is all about ADD, and we embrace
100%.
Yeah. Well, it's like what they wanted to do is like, Jason, well, hey, let's make him a real.
Jason. What did you think of Obi-Wan though? The trailer. I'm gonna bring you back around. Sean's already drinking. So.
Fine. Yeah, exactly.
And I'm sure this is coffee every time.
Sure.
Of course.
Actually, probably
certainly.
Is.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, like I didn't mind the Inquisitor. Here's the thing. I want to get excited for it because it is Obi-Wan. It's looking like it's going to be good from the teaser trailer. But I'm just so worried it's going to be just more, more content like we got with Book of Boba Fett. Right? Like it's going to be so like they're going to be like, hey, can we do this? And can we do this? And can we do this? And we got this toy to sell. We got to do this. We have to have like that is my fear with everything moving forward. So I'm not saying I'm not going to watch it. I'm just saying that's my fear.
Glad you said that. There is now a news report that's going around, and Disney has actually spoken about it and said, yeah, we just felt it might have been too much. I don't think I'm spoiling anything here, but just in case, spoilers. Darth Maul is supposed to be in this.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
And they kicked him out. They filmed scenes, everything else. When they were doing that, Jason, to your point, they're like, nope, just if Phil's thrown in, we're getting rid of his scenes.
Yeah.
And in turn, they beefed up Anakin's role, Vader's role, into it.
Which, I mean,
if we're going to have one, it's going to be one.
So they're mentioning, so they are bringing, so there's more Hayden Christensen in this.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And that was the thing, is that's why they were saying is like the reason that we did Darth Maul adds another story to it. The Inquisitors and Vader makes sense because that was Vader's other group of people that he would send out to hunt down some of the remaining Jedis. And Jason, you'd probably know a little bit more about that than I would, but that was kind of the premise behind that. So the Inquisitors and Vader, that all blends well together.
Yeah, no, it makes way more sense. One of the things they introduced in Rebels was this idea of the Inquisitor, these people who were mostly, they were actually Jedi that had been turned 9 times out of 10. But they were, again, Darth Vader's disposable. They weren't true Sith, but they were essentially dark Jedi. And that they all had the same kind of lightsaber. they all wore this sort of Vader-like helmet and face mask, right? They were different, but they typically wore the face mask. And it was just this group of these fallen Jedi that he had twisted and turned to go kill the rest of the other Jedi. They were Jedi hunters, essentially.
Well, and if there's one thing that fascism teaches us, it's that a solid uniform to identify who everybody is
That's
key.
true.
It's key.
It's built in the name. Fascism, like it's part of it.
You're right.
So
it's right there.
Like it's right there. It has to be part of it. It really does.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we saw how big the Jedi were on their uniforms as well. So yeah, that's a great point. That is a great point.
Yeah.
That's why we keep Sean around. He brings in those perspectives, and you're like, well,
the fashion point. The fashion. We don't know anything about fashion. It's all about Sean.
Just here to make things merry,
Just saying.
Mm-hmm.
Making fascism work for you.
Wow. Okay. So that was the thoughts and opinions of Sean.
So we're going to talk about the Amazon buyout of MGM now.
Well, hold off, man.
No, we're not there yet. We're not there. We got to get to Batman at some point. We can't waste our entire show.
Because I don't know about y'all. I've got a lot on Batman. Big shock, right?
Yeah, I'm so surprised, Ray.
I love the fact that and by the way, so all that to sit there and say is that yes, I'm looking forward to Obi-Wan. Hopefully they don't mess it up. We'll see.
Same. I hope they don't screw it up. I hope it's better than I hope it does it. It could be as good as, or at least I hope it's as good as The Mandalorian. Seriously, man, The Mandalorian has been such a cool show, but we're touching on some other territory going into this new season with Mandalorian. It could be bad at this point. We could start to see it, decline. I don't know. We'll see.
I go back with those magic numbers, right? I've only seen a couple of series ever go past season 5 and still maintain its quality.
Well, we're about to hit season 3 for Mandalorian, and
because season 2.5 of Mandalorian was really hit or miss.
The chapter of
season 2 through 5.
But anyway, so Sonic, the final trailer dropped.
Okay, I have to. My only comment on Sonic 2,
which doesn't even look like a trailer for Sonic.
It doesn't look at all like a trailer for Sonic the Hedgehog. It's great.
But why does it look so good? Why does this look so good?
The first one was good. Did you see the first one?
Yeah, I loved the first one. Like, that was the thing that shocked the crap out of me. Was I actually enjoyed it? Y'all told me to go watch it. I'm like, I don't.
It's
like,
a good
kids
movie.
Don't watch the kids' movies anymore, so I don't care.
It's a fun movie.
Yeah, it's a fun thing. Yeah, it's a fun movie.
Yeah.
Even like my wife enjoyed it, and she just was when she was watching, she was like, "Oh my god,"
Yeah.
But then she still at the end of it, she's like, "It was cute. It was fun," and it's because it does what it's supposed to do. It knows it's Sonic the Hedgehog. It's not trying to make it too realistic to be some, oh my god, out there premise. It calls itself out on its bullshit when he's like, "You're a talking hedgehog," and he goes, "Yeah, man, get over it." Like, and that's the point. They're like, "Yeah, dude, we know, get over it. It is stupid," but this gives Jim Carrey the outlet that he needs to be
stupid.
Jim Carrey, just off the wall, out there actor, and he does such a great job. And did they get the same voice actor, by the way, coming back for Sonic? Okay, good.
Yes.
I was making sure.
Everybody was saying, with the exception of Idris Elba being new for Knuckles.
Right, for Knuckles.
But even he's getting a spinoff now.
What's his name? Is it Middleditch or is it Schwartz? I can't remember his first name. Anyways, he was on.
I think Schwartz.
I think it's Schwartz. Yeah, he was on Parks and Rec as a funny character, Jean Raphael, and he's been in a bunch of other little bit parts for us. If you guys want to see that, that's pretty funny.
I'm gonna say this now, and I know people are gonna be like, "Oh my god, you got to be kidding me!" So the week before this comes out, Morbius finally drops after 8 months or 8 different years of delay.
Isn't it like 2.5 years delayed
it's
now?
Crazy. I don't even know.
It's been sitting out there for a while. Yeah.
I guarantee. I'm going to say it now. Sonic 2 will end up taking that very next week. Morbius will only have 1 week.
Yeah.
Sonic 2.
Morbius, same. Sonic 2 is going to knock it off.
And I'm not even saying that. that's not me saying it's going to be bad. Like, do
No,
not get me wrong.
no,
In fact, I think I'm
no.
going to enjoy Morbius. I think everyone's going to enjoy Sonic much better.
I think
it's a kids movie, so
exactly. It's got the kid draw, and it's an immediate movie. It's not been in limbo for as long as it has been. A lot of people have, had interest with Morbius and already lost it because they're going to go, wait, Morbius is in theaters? They're like, didn't that come out on? They're like, shouldn't that be on DVD? So yeah,
that's me.
I
Yeah,
really do think it's going to be the Wonder Woman effect.
Yeah,
I agree. I just don't think it's going to have as much draw because it was.
Or I'm sorry,
it sat. No,
Black Widow effect. Black Widow
because
effect.
it sat for too long.
Yeah,
it sat for too long, and you pump up the hype and then you lose it because of there was this pandemic. Hello.
Well,
and
so Morbius has been pumped up for like 2 years, and it's like,
the pandemic delayed the filming, and then releases of some other things delayed the releases of it. I mean, honestly, just put it on frickin' HBO Max or whatever, release that sucker, and put it on Disney Plus. I don't give a shit. Whatever streaming service you want, give it to Paramount Plus. I don't care. Put it on YouTube for all I give a shit. Just freaking release the damn movie.
Give it to Amazon.
Yeah.
So Amazon's bought somebody new.
Yeah. Now we're gonna see.
Well, 8.5 billion.
Now you can have your James Bond marathons on Thanksgiving without having to deal with commercials. You can just go straight to Amazon Prime. You can pull up all the movies and you can watch your James Bond all day, Thanksgiving Day, and get rid of this whole football BS where people pretend to play sports.
Yes, agreed. That's all I got.
I guess I welcome Lex Luthor now. I'm like, you know what? Let's do this. Let's go, Lex Luthor.
The Amazon is definitely Mr. Bezos Luthor is definitely a mighty force. In his palace of dick rockets and gold piles.
Yeah. I don't know how. I was like, I never.
Subsequently, dick rockets, something you can buy on Amazon.
Something you buy on Amazon, exactly. It's like, and you know what? They did pretty good with The Expanse, so I'm not going to complain. Look,
by the way, Expanse, an amazing series, way better than it has any right to be.
It really, Well,
lots of dick rockets in that
people do love the books, so yeah.
Oh yeah, I need to. I want to actually go back and read those because I imagine they're good. So.
All right. Quick shot right before getting to Batman. If you're playing Elden Ring, get over your emotional turmoil. It's a game. Yes, it's hard. Don't buy it.
What is up with
Elden?
What's up with that? Yeah,
Elden Ring is another.
Because I don't play video games anymore. I don't have
so there's a genre of game which is what is it? There's a genre of game which has come out called Souls-like, and that's because of a game that pretty much made it, that set the pace for it, called Demon Souls. Or Dark Souls.
I thought.
Dark Souls.
Yeah, it was Dark Souls. Yeah, I'm aware. Yeah.
And so Dark Souls basically they didn't make the genre, but they defined the genre, if you will.
I got you.
And so when you have a Souls game, it's pretty much that type of game. And this is every definitive Souls game has been from the same studio, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure they are. Like Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, and all the different Souls 1, 2, and 3, all the Dark Souls and everything. So this is another one. It's just less of a Dark Souls game and more of a cross into, I don't know, Ray, what would you call it? Like an RPG in a way, because it's more fantasy. It's more fantasy-esque. It's like knights and fairies and elves and still demons and all that shit, but it's more.
I'm going to be really bad on how I say this, and for the gaming world, I'm pretty sure I'll get flack for it. It's Red Dead,
because we're so prevalent there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. It's Red Dead Redemption 2, completely fantasy driven, and with with no ability to take off hard. You go into that. There's only one way to play this.
Pretty much, there's one way to play it.
It's mind-numbingly hard.
But all games in that genre are. And that's the point. Now, the reason, Jason, you're hearing so many things about people talking about is, one, it's an amazing game visually.
Yes.
It's I mean, it's leaps and bounds ahead of the other ones, and because it's a RPG fantasy style game that so many people who would go out there and, live action role play or tabletop gaming, World of Warcraft, that kind of thing, it's drawing in that crowd because it looks like something looks like something they would play. But then they get into it and they've never played a Souls game in their entire life, and the entire I don't know I wouldn't say the entire, but a big draw for a Souls type game is when you come to a boss, you're about to fight that boss for at least an hour and a half. Just that one boss. You're going to be in one fight for an hour and a half. And not because it takes you the full hour and a half to beat the boss, because it takes
how many times you die.
It takes you 50 minutes to learn how to beat the boss, and then a half an hour to now apply all your knowledge and finally survive and beat the boss. And then
I understand.
You get to do it 17 more times after you've leveled yourself up over equally ridiculously bullshit bosses throughout the course of the game that are just smattered around. And then you get these big, huge bosses. It's an amazing thing, but it's definitely not for me.
I understand. I'm with you.
It's fun. It really is. I mean,
it's an amazing thing, but no, thank you. Nope.
Love it. All right, so what we came to talk about today, spoilers from here on out for the Batman if you have not seen it.
Yes. And we'll say that repeatedly over the course of the next half hour to 45 minutes, because I'm sure we could easily have gone an hour on this.
I'm pretty sure, and I don't know that we won't necessarily kind of lose track here again, but hey, whatever.
Yeah, but we'll keep saying spoilers throughout for anybody who joins in the midst of things.
Well, okay, so before we start breaking this down, Sean, yes or no? Like, dislike?
Wanted to watch it again as soon as it was done.
Good.
I agree with Sean. Yeah, same with Sean. Same like Sean. Yeah.
And I'm gonna have to go 3 for 3 on this one, which is rare because we do actually have opinions that differ. I promise we do. Just ask Eternals.
Talk to us about Jessica Jones. We'll get into a discussion there.
Jessica Jones. We'll go back and forth on. That's absolutely right.
Yeah, we still will mention that and talk about that. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't even know where to begin with this movie. The way it opened up, it drew me in instantly. The voiceover, the legitimate, even though it's Batman Year 2, but the Batman Year 1 pulls as if we're reading from the journal of Batman. And I think it's very important to say that in this iteration of Batman, not Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
He hasn't learned to be Bruce Wayne yet. He is truly Batman in this film.
Yeah.
But
this is the Batman from the comic books. Real from the Frank Miller comic books. That's who this is. Like, even the Dark Knight stuff was a very different take, where his adoption of the Batman persona was a planned idea. It's this, and it was all like he had an idea, he was trained on how to do it. He's trying to figure this out. In this one, he is obsessed. He is psychologically ill. Is what this is.
This is trauma driven. This is pure. I mean, it is 100%. You see, he is traumatized, and this is how he is dealing with that trauma, which is, in essence, where Batman began. I mean, his parents die. This kid goes through this horrible thing, and he decides he's going to avenge his parents, but not in the way that he can save them, in the way that he's just going to become vengeance. And that's what he's doing. He's taking everything out on, and it's trail of that Batman. Solid portrayal.
And they made him genuinely scary. Like the other brutal. Like the other Batman stuff, like the Dark Knight's probably the closest thing we can equate to this, right? Like they made him scary by making him flashy. This made him scary through sheer intimidation and psychological feeling. And then because it's like the difference between the lightsaber fight scenes in the prequels versus
Rogue One.
Well, no, the new trilogy, right? Like
Mm.
in the prequels, they were flashing, they were spinning everywhere, and it was graceful. It was like a kung fu movie. But then we get
Yes.
into the new ones, particularly like that big fight on Snoke's ship. It's actually more real. It's brutal. It's
Yes.
hard.
It's more
It's
realistic.
not.
Yeah.
It's more realistic,
Even
and so it's
even the first confrontation from Kylo Ren and
yeah.
Rey. You know, I know people are like, how did she learn how to wield a lightsaber? Have you never picked up a bat before, dumbass?
Yeah.
You pick up a bat and you swing it. What's wrong with you? I'm sorry. Anyways,
And
it's
she had her
yes,
she
it's
had
much
her
more.
pike. Yeah.
Yeah, and exactly. She at least had her staff, so she's got some experience there. She's more accustomed to wielding something like
Yeah.
that. So yeah, it was much more realistic in that regard. That and this, I'm glad you mentioned that realistic thing, and that's that terror, because it made this did not. This was a far cry from a Schumacher film. This was a far cry from a Nolan film.
Mhm.
I was gonna
This
say that. Yeah.
this moves
Yeah.
way into a realistic, and I don't know how much more, like, even Nolan was more realistic than we'd ever seen a Batman before, because he was being, it was like, it was just modern day and there was nothing super crazy or special about it. This puts you in the comic book world of Gotham, but it firmly makes you believe that this is
Yeah.
a real world, and this is a normal world, one we can all relate to. Like, there's
Yeah.
nothing that sticks out of me where I'm like, all right, that's bullshit. Like, it all felt very believable.
Well, I don't know who we can accredit this to. But I was listening to a different podcast, and they didn't know who to accredit it to. It was
Was
someone on.
Jason on
It
it?
was I think he probably was, but it
Probably.
was someone from TikTok or someone from Instagram, whatever the case. They put it the best way. They're like, if Nolan introduced Batman to the real world, then the Batman introduced the real world into Batman.
Mm,
And it's a subtle difference when
Mm.
you actually think about what it is, because
it does.
it
Yeah.
was still fantasy on what Nolan was producing. There was still stuff that was never going
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
real world applicable. Here, it's no, this is the real world. I
Yeah.
love Snyder's Batman because it's
It is
stylized.
the fantasy.
It's stylized fantasy
He's
violence for him, and it worked
Yeah,
perfectly. And
it worked
I
amazing.
love
And
Batman. Yeah.
the whole suit, the bigness,
Hmm.
that it, like, you're looking at that Frank Miller you're looking at the drawing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like copy and paste. They did such a good job of making him bulky and huge and big, like Miller did in those comic books, and it was like,
Yeah.
it was
Well,
so
because
cool to just
he
see it.
got big. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, and it was so cool to see it torn from those pages and thrown on the screen and then be
Yeah.
believable, because he's out there, like, you can
Yeah.
see this big Ben Affleck Batman whooping ass, and you're like, oh yeah, those four guys aren't gonna. They're thin. Look at them. They skip
Yeah.
leg day. They're not gonna do this.
Here, in the opening 5 minutes, it is the opening scene to Jaws.
Yes.
Being the Batman.
Yeah, it is.
It
Yeah, you're
is.
right.
It is
Wow, what a good
so
comparison. Yeah.
much of a dun like
It's a thriller,
what's going
dude.
on? You
It's
know?
a thriller. This whole movie.
Yeah.
This is like, again, this is another film noir. This is a Blade Runner. This is Batman if it were Blade Runner if it were Batman. You
And
know?
Minor revision. It's the Terminator as Batman.
No, not for a movie. Not from a movie standpoint. Not from a stylized movie standpoint.
I get what
It
you're saying. Yeah,
is-
you're talking about the style. I get what you're saying, but the way they played Batman is almost like he's the Terminator.
No, he's
It's not.
No,
it's not. I don't even think it's that.
I don't
again,
believe that.
it's a horror movie. It's down to the scene.
It is a horror film. It is a horror film.
Down to the
I mean,
scene.
a thriller
Yeah.
horror film. That's what it is.
He's the last thing that you want to see. In fact, there are scenes in this movie where he
Mm.
plays like Michael Myers. He
Oh, yeah.
plays like Jason Voorhees.
He
Like
does.
between
Yeah.
the music, the mood, the setting, how you see him coming out of
The
shadows.
footsteps, man. The walking,
footsteps.
and just like, oh shit, this is happening. You know.
They added the spur sounds because at first I was like, did I hear spurs?
Yeah.
I had to go back and find out. They're like, yeah, we wanted spurs because it's one thing that it should be something that's intimidating, and they nailed every bit of that intimidation in this.
This is such an amazing. It's an amazing movie. because as a whole package, they did so many great things with Batman that we really haven't seen them do before.
Yeah.
But and they did them all so well.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. Like, this is the first time I've ever really seen Batman being a detective.
Yes.
He's like, don't get me wrong, Nolan's Batman, okay, a little bit, but he's like, I've got my high vision goggles on and I'm watching where the heats and the footprints are, or I've got some sort of like super infrared thing that I designed. No, standing in a room, slowly looking around, observing everybody while they all go about their business and going, there's a blood mark on the ground. Not saying anything to anybody, wandering over to a blood mark,
just
bending down, just looking at it,
Yeah.
but taking that mental note of, and well, I guess, and also with his little contact, still technology, right? But he's doing it to record it so he can study it, because that's his chain of evidence. But he's being a detective. He's chasing a serial killer.
Yep.
It's a serial killer movie, and it's Batman the detective chasing a serial killer. It's an amazing movie.
with Batman.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So let's talk about it. I love the scene. Well, first off, just the whole at the beginning with the shadows, where you have these criminals who all of a sudden they see the bats are going to go on, and then they look at the shadow next to him, because even though they know the chances are very low that he is there, they don't want to take that chance. And then when they finally get to someone who they thought, okay, well, we don't have him in there, that's when he walks out, and you're just like, wow, okay, this is.
And he goes out of his way to mess him up.
Oh yeah. Like, it's not like, it's so much so that as he's saving the first person,
that guy's scared shitless of him.
He doesn't want. He tells him, please don't hurt me, because he just saw what happened, and he's like, oh my god, dude, like, you're insane, you're out of your mind. And then to have the very next scene of him and to have that very next scene of him walking into a room full of cops, and just seeing two things: one, that Gordon has enough trust in him to take him there, but two, to see that the cops have not accepted him at all. And they're
not accepted him. They despise him.
Yeah, they're mad. They're mad. Like, why'd you bring him here?
He doing here? Yeah, like, this guy is, to them, he's almost just as much of a criminal, because he can't. He doesn't play by their rules.
Well, because he is.
He is a criminal. Yeah. I know, he is a criminal. He's out there beating people up and taking justice into his own hands, and maybe killing a folk or two. Who knows?
They don't know yet. They don't know.
Right? They don't know yet. Yeah, but.
Well, and again, if this is the real world, if he's beating people the way he beat them on the subway, he is absolutely
killing people. He is at least crippling somebody. That's true. Somebody's eating through a straw for a few
He is causing
weeks.
massive brain damage to somebody.
Again, goes back to that year one Frank Miller take, where he kicks someone so hard in the stomach, he tells them he should walk again. He's young. Right, because he knows that he just absolutely damaged that spine.
That he went too far. That he's like, I just did it all because
he's young. He should walk again.
He should walk again.
Yeah, and that's the type of Batman that we see, is just very much.
He's so brutal, man. It was so brutal.
There's
but in such a in such a believable way. It's just, the whole thing was believable. I don't know how else to say that.
Pattinson did such a good job of expressing. I can't believe I'm saying this, of expressing emotion in a non-emotional beat. And then when you need to have the emotion cranked to 11, the director took over, and I gotta hand it to Reeves. Two of the most impactful scenes in this movie. One, again, spoilers, and we're saying this all throughout.
Yeah, spoilers. Yeah.
One is when the bomb goes off with Alfred. Go back and watch that scene where he screams Alfred, and in your mind, you clearly hear him scream Alfred.
There's no sound.
There's no sound.
Not from him screaming. There's sound from, like,
it's just the music,
heartbeats, and just and noise, and
But you do feel that scream from him, and it's one of the few times that he gets really emotional in it. And even then, even then, the relationship between Alfred and Bruce, man, is he a jerk? Like,
He's an asshole.
hey, I know you almost just died, but what's up with lying to me? Like,
Yeah,
what was that about? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, this Bruce Wayne is a
Yeah.
he is a douchebag.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I get it. And why is he spray painting on his floor? Like, it's gonna be like Alfred's gonna have to clean that. But you're
Well,
right.
he's a spoiled rich kid. He just doesn't know the value of things.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, he just doesn't care. Like, that's the other thing I like about it
he
too. Is
doesn't
like,
care.
he, to Sean's point at the very beginning, which is he's so emotionally traumatized. Part of it feels like he doesn't want, and that's when you know when he's screaming for Alfred. For that brief second, you realize that he doesn't want anything bad to happen to anyone close to him. But at the same time, he's doing his best to push everybody away because he doesn't want to care about anyone, because he doesn't want to go back to that point of having to lose someone he
He
cares
doesn't
about.
want to be hurt again.
So he's purposely being this douche throughout the entire movie to Alfred, and Alfred's just really patient with him. And so,
Because
even
Alfred
in that scene,
himself believes that he's done that.
yeah,
Alfred believes he's done wrong. He hasn't done right
yeah,
by Bruce, and
both of
they
them are trying to
absolutely
atone.
mention that.
Yeah, they're both trying to atone for things that were for the one act that was never in either one of them's control.
Well, but they're also never.
I like that. Yeah,
they're never talking about it either. So they're blaming each. They're blaming each one is blaming themselves, and then they're
taking
never
it out on
discussing
each
it.
other.
They're taking it out on each other because they blame themselves. So
Mhm.
they also take it out on the other person and push the other way. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a classic that's a classic cycle of miscommunication and non-communication between two
Well, it's very
traumatized
human.
individuals. It's again, that's what I mean. Classic. That's what I mean by that. It's a human thing.
Yeah,
Which is
This
played
is
upon a lot.
yeah.
And I know that there are people out there that don't like the movie because they're like, oh, it's too dark, it's too realistic, it's blah blah blah. I'm like, yeah, but if you take this as what it is, and I know that we've all been through at least one college course where someone brought up Batman, either it's like in a psych class or whatever class, and everyone immediately went like, oh man, that wouldn't work. But you had a teacher that would be like, let me tell you why it wouldn't work. And they would list all the reasons for how bad and how much trauma the person would go through and what kind of things that would happen. And if it was to play out in a Batman scenario, everything that would be wrong. And this is the movie for that. This is the movie that gives that explanation of like, okay, if you're going to be this guy, these are going to be the problems with this.
Yeah.
And they did it beautifully. There's so much and all to talk about, but at the same time, I don't want to talk about anything because I think everyone should be able to experience certain scenes for themselves.
Well, we've already said spoilers, so it's fine.
I mean, so I there are a lot of things that I do. I mean, I disagree. I want to talk about some of these scenes. I really absolutely do. I haven't talked to too many people about this. It's like I've pretty much only really talked to my buddy Nathan. Like we both went and saw this film together, and we got out and we went to BJ's Brew House across the road and grabbed a couple of beers and a sandwich and just sat there and talked about the movie for like 45 minutes because it was so fantastic. But seriously, the things that they have him do in this movie, and not only Batman, but let me okay, we've talked about, we've been smoking Batman's pole for 20 minutes now. Let me move on to another character, but the Riddler and his portrayal of the Riddler, again, serial killer, like full on serial killer portrayal. And Jason, you mentioned Seven, and I can't believe I wasn't even considering that, but that is such a perfect comparison to how these crimes play out against all these things. He still creates these riddles and makes you solve them, but he's doing so in such a believable way that it's in such a sadistically believable way. It's not Saw, right?
Even childish almost.
Well, yeah, even childish.
Because all the cards are simple riddles.
Right, but what I mean is it's not Saw. Like it's gotta make a choice, and it's like a fully manufactured, and you go, okay, how the hell did this happen? How did these people get here? And you can barely believe it. No, this is an easily believable because he does it. And you know that this is so simple that they could do this. I mean, he sits in the back of some guy's car and ambushes him, right? Or hides in the shadow. I mean, the opening scene, just standing in the shadows to then bludgeon the guy over the head and tape him up. He does to him, like, holy shit. These things can happen to people, and they have. They have, which is why it's just like, wow, this is
his costume is based on the only survivor's account of the Zodiac killer.
Yeah,
two costumes.
2 costumes.
It's based on 2 costumes. One is
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
2, the mask is based on Batman.
Oh,
Matt
interesting.
Reeves said he wanted him to be the polar opposite, where if the Joker is his ultimate enemy, he wanted the Riddler to be such. He's a fan of Batman. I mean, we see
He
that
is
in
a
the
fan.
movie. He's a fan of Batman.
Yeah,
so
he
his
is.
But
mask,
it's so great because it's not apparent the entire time until they make it apparent. And then you're just like, oh shit, you know, like that was a good moment.
And the
that
card
scene
riddles,
between Batman and him was amazing.
Yeah, and the card riddles not being the actual riddle, and
it's just a note. It's just a note to Batman.
Even that riddle not being an actual riddle, it's an overarching riddle.
Yeah,
that this is the first time I've seen in any of the iterations of Batman, I think, at all, ever. He doesn't win. He doesn't save the day in this movie.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't.
He
loses.
I
mean, but that's not because he also lost in The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Not to this extent, though.
No, but he did. No, but he lost because Harvey Dent dies in the Dark. Spoilers. Harvey Dent dies in the Dark Knight.
How dare you spoil something 15 years old, Sean?
Right? No, I know, but you get what I'm like. He loses, and I mean, I know what you mean. Yeah. He wins because but even then, in this movie, he still wins, but he loses because he doesn't beat the bad guy. He just is there to save the people from the collateral damage.
Yeah,
so he helps, but he helps. He doesn't.
He helps blunt more loss, but
he blunts the impact. Yes.
He doesn't stop the overall action for it.
No, he doesn't win, and a lot of innocent people die. A lot of innocent people die.
And now, again, I see where you're going. On a personal level, it's a personal win as he's realizing he's got to become more than what he's been. And that, again, that was very another impactful seeing him with the flare walking in the water.
Right.
You know,
water.
Which, hold on, I do have one. My only problem with this entire movie comes in that exact scene, Ray. My only problem with that entire movie. I don't know if you guys are going to really know where I'm going with this, and I hope you don't. Ray always thinks he does, but whatever.
I have an idea, but go on.
Just before all this carnage happens at this Thunderdome or whatever the hell it is, wherever they were, the Terror Dome. I don't remember where they were. Just before all this New Orleans shit went down, right? They are the mayor gets shot. She gets shot. He's like, "Pa!" and she goes down, and Gordon is there to pull her to safety, and the gunman's open fire on everybody. So this whole thing just happens to get shot. So he pops he pops the flare. The kid comes out because the kid's like, "He saved me. I remember him. He comforted me, or in some weird shape or form, and so I trust.
I know he's not going to hurt me.
I know he's not going to hurt me." Yeah. Well, then here comes, like, right behind him, the mayor, and she's just all wading through the water with no problems. I'm like, bitch, you got shot in the gut. You're wading through chest-deep water, and you're keeping, you're like, I don't want to get my shoulders wet. Like, she's, like, got her arms up. I'm like, what the how is this possible? That's my only problem with the entire movie, is that one stupid scene. I got nothing else really wrong with it.
Hold on. If we're going to have a problem with that, then how do you not have a problem with the fact that Batman isn't severely crippled and brain damaged after his wingsuit jump?
Oh, yeah. No, I know. Oh, no.
By the way, that wingsuit jump was fantastic.
Dude, it was amazing.
To have him pull the ripcord and then to show that parachute's not going to work in a city at all.
We were sitting there, and like Nathan and I, this whole thing's happening, and he's flying, and we were like, "Oh, dude, that's awesome!" The cape. It was like, what a practical use, and how cool is it that they have him doing this? And we're watching it, and we both went, "Oh!" Just like, oh, like I cringed, he cringed. I saw the other people next to me kind of do it out of the corner of their eye. Everyone's like, damn. No,
I love that.
I get it, Jason. I just mean open wound in fetid water.
I get it. Yeah, it's like
salt water.
It's like there's salt water. Like, there's trash in it. There's sewage in it. It is. I get you.
No movies without a questionable, huh?
I know. It was just. It was so dumb.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
get
one
it.
of the dumbest things ever. But I saw it, and it's the only thing that made me go, wait a minute, she got shot. And then I was like, oh, I'm watching the movie. Screw it. And I just like,
Yeah.
but
Oh my
Well,
god.
okay, I do have to. So while we're on this, just because we mentioned the wingsuit was both one of my favorite scenes, as well as the one thing that I'm like, I really wish they'd gone a slightly different direction with, and only in like he
You're
turns into a wingsuit. And I'm like,
dude, it's
hold on.
completely aesthetic for you though,
let
man.
him,
It's a
no, but let him
fashionable
say it. But
choice,
let him say
man.
it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want to hear it. You may have had this conversation with him. I haven't. Tell me, Jason.
Yeah, and it's a purely aesthetic thing. Like everything else could work the same. It's like we've already seen enough Batman films where the cape works as a glider. Like I love what they did with it. They still could do the same thing, but the idea that it turns into a wingsuit, I'm like, you could have kept the idea of it looking like a hang glider a little bit, right? It's still done the same thing. It's a purely aesthetic thing for me. I would have
Okay.
kept everything else the same. That's it. Like just there's a thing where it's like he pulls it,
I see what
he
you're
locks
saying.
it around, and then he jumps. Like that would have been perfectly fine for me. I just thought making it look like a wingsuit was really just it looked dorky, and I'm like, it's unnecessary given the history.
I don't know. I honestly thought it was a good idea because from a bat perspective, bats fly. Their feet are basically attached to their hands.
Oh, they
through
are
their
absolutely.
wings. So it makes more sense for it to be a glider getting out of somewhere versus and we've seen, like you said, we've seen numerous iterations of this whole cape thing. And I mean, the one that sticks out to me the most, I don't know if it is 1989 Batman where he throws his cape open and you hear the ka-chunk and you see the stick come out of his throws and so you can tell it's like, oh, there's supposed to be some rigidity there. But at the same time, I know that's bullshit because his cape has been flowing around, moving with no problems. The reason I liked it so much was because it made so much realistic sense for how it had been there the entire time. Like you could tell, you're like, man, that's a really like wrinkly, bunched up whole thing. And when he puts it together and like, oh shit, it's a suit. That's really cool. Like it was a hidden gem. I think that's why I liked it.
And I appreciate that. Again, it was a purely aesthetic thing. Yeah, but the parachute I love because you're right.
He
it's
pulls
like
it and just wham. Yeah. Oh,
well, because
but you would because wingsuits you don't land. You have to use
you have to use a parachute.
You still have to use a parachute to land it. Yes.
Well, and in every iteration of that glide, even in Nolan's glide with the cape, the problem always is there was never going to be enough drag to help him land safely.
Yeah.
And what I love is they're like, it's a parachute. It's a parachute in a city that has bridges and tunnels and cars, and it's not gonna work.
It's not gonna work. It's not, and he didn't see it. He didn't see it coming, man. That bridge took him out. That was,
which again is still what like it's the bounce. Okay, I actually sent Ray a TikTok yesterday. Maybe it was the day before, but it's this goose who goes up and attacks this horse, and it looks like a big Clydesdale kind of a thing. And this horse doesn't miss a stride, just uses its leg to kick the goose. And that goose goes flying, and the camera follows. And this goose is just over there
that goose is dead.
Dude, I'm like, that goose is dead. Like, he's just like, that's how I felt about Batman when he's bouncing off of him.
I really thought something. I really thought they were going to have to do a little bit more with it. And then when he got up, I was like, okay, that's a bit surprising. But I really did think. I mean, I know that they're basically going on the fact that it's body armor.
Yeah, he still didn't get up 100% like okay. Like he got up and he stumbled back into the ground and he's like, okay. He had to take a couple of tries.
He's all kind of bent over, crooked, like something is internally damaged right now.
It's Spider-Man 2. My back.
Yeah.
Anyway, like I said, that's really that was my only thing. It's like, is that aesthetic? Okay, but an aesthetic choice that was absolutely brilliant that a lot of people initially did sort of have problems with. Freaking Batmobile.
All right, now hold on. This was amazing. Let me just say, the Batmobile wasn't through most of the movie. I don't think we really saw the Batmobile until the last. I mean, you did, but you didn't see it. It wasn't in action until
it was in parts.
Climax of Act 2.
Climax of Act 2. Yes, thank you. Climax of Act 2. Mm-hmm. What an introduction. Because
best Batmobile introduction.
I just felt like with it happening, I was sitting there, I was like, pure terror. It was Stephen King's Christine. Like, that was what
they used for it.
Exactly, dude. You can see it. I mean, you can see it, and I'm watching it, and I'm just like, oh, this is good. And everyone, the cops, the people who are there to be the good guys, the people who know he's there, they're like,
What is that?
what is that?
Yeah. Doesn't quite sound like a car.
No,
Yeah.
it sounds like it's alive. And why is it glowing? Like it was just amazing. So
Did you
terrifying.
listen to the score when it was that scene when they're introducing
Yes.
it?
Hey, how can you
Yes.
not?
The score stops whenever it revs. Like it goes
Yes.
to a complete silence. We were watching this in an XD theater.
Yeah, so were
When
we.
it revved,
Dude,
the
You could
seats
feel it.
the
shook,
seats are rumbling. Yes, that
and
was. I
you're just
thought I
like,
was like,
"That is
ooh, 4D
nuts."
experience. This is
Yeah,
awesome.
I
Yeah,
mean,
it
it
was
was.
cool.
But I didn't. I caught it like I'm finally on the third rev. I'm like, "Oh wow, they dropped the score. Like there's no sound
Yeah,
other than the car."
yeah.
And then when it finally hits, you're
Hmm.
just like, "That is insane." But the other thing is the sheer look on the penguin's face when when he realizes that's a car.
Yes,
Yeah.
He's
yes,
like, we're not gonna win that.
yeah,
Like
It's like we gotta
quick,
go now.
quick, someone
yep,
get to the 97 Cutlass.
yeah.
Like whatever. Like I'm sitting there, he's like, let's jump in the fastest 95 Malibu that Chevy could make at the time.
Yeah.
Let's get in that to outrun this thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You
Well,
know,
and not just that chase scene, all the chase scenes really, they did such a good job of putting you in the moment, of making you part of that chase scene. The OL cameras, the ground level point POV effect, like all those
Yes.
angles, and using you like the
yeah.
camera in the window of the car facing you, but you can see over the guy's shoulder and you can see the car back there. Like all these good shots of creating this in the
Yeah.
moment suspense.
Yeah.
The cameramen, the cinematography, the people who shot this movie are as much a part of these actors and the acting and the story as
Yes.
anything else. That's why this movie is so amazing, because so much of it, it's so much talent over so many aspects that created
Yeah.
such a really,
And
really fantastic movie.
that
You know?
scene where he's walking towards the penguin, such a Nightmare on Elm Street scene.
Yeah.
Oh, it
Fire
is.
behind
Freddy
him.
going to
Just yeah. Yeah.
and I know some
He's
people are like,
upside
man,
down too.
that was the
Oh
other thing.
yeah, you're completely helpless. Completely helpless.
People were like, man, that's so corny. With we didn't need to see him like get into the car window. I'm like, that made the scene for me, like
Yeah.
because you never really see like that's the whole thing is
Yeah.
you can just see him, and then to see someone just kind of slowly peek behind to look at you,
Yeah.
it's that look of oh crap,
Yeah.
But
Well,
then
again, it makes him. This is the first. This is one of the first movies where he is genuinely terrifying as
He
Batman.
is. He is terrifying. Yes. It's good.
okay,
It
so
was really, really good.
actors.
Mm.
I don't think there was a bad actor in this flick.
Mm-mm.
You know, I don't recall John Turturro being in a more like, I've seen him in so many movies, and John Turturro
Yeah.
is such an eclectic actor, um, and so much so that
Yeah.
as far as eclectic goes, as far as that word goes, when I found out he was going to be in Transformers, I was like, that seems a little weird. That seems a little too mainstream for
Mhm.
John Turturro, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing him in this, like he did such a good job. He did such a good job as the mob boss. Was it
Yeah.
Falcone,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Falcone.
Falcone.
Yeah.
Or was it Yeah, it was Falcone, because
Yep.
there's Marconi and there's Falcone, but he was
Yeah.
yeah. So he did such a good job as Falcone, and then I could not tell that was Colin Farrell. I
At
could
all.
not.
No, I
No,
couldn't.
And
in no way, shape, or form are you
just
looking at that going, that's Colin Farrell.
Mhm.
just having the time of his life.
Oh,
Yeah.
This makes me look forward to this Penguin series
yeah,
coming
yeah.
up on HBO
Oh man,
next. Like I am, this is because he enjoy. I haven't seen him, and this is not a slam. Um, the one bright side, and I know this is gonna sound weird. The one bright side of the Daredevil with Ben Affleck was
mm,
Colin Farrell's Bullseye just hamming it up.
Yes.
Yeah.
You could tell he was enjoying himself in that movie.
Yeah.
Same thing here. No ham whatsoever.
No,
But you can tell
amazing
he's
acting.
enjoying himself
Amazing
being
acting.
lost in this role.
Yes,
like,
in this
Yeah.
role.
Just completely he owns it.
Best line in the whole movie comes from him.
Really?
Well, the greatest detectives, huh?
Yeah.
Oh.
you don't Espanol?
You know?
know?
When they're interrogating him on the pillar?
Yes.
Anybody else notice the giant pee stain on the pillar when they let him go and they both walk off?
Yes.
Okay. It's also little things like that. Like, this movie is so serious about itself because it is such a serious film. They still threw in these tiny little hits of humor where you can get them, and that interrogation was one of them. Like, the fact that you're like, oh man, they've got him now, and this whole thing happens. He's like, what the hell are you two onto here? You know. And the fact that he's just like, you guys he's like, it's real cute. It's a great story. I love the way you're telling it, you know. But that was so great. Like, and them just looking at each other like, oh shit, we were totally wrong.
Yeah. We missed this. It's like,
you're leaving me here?
The fallibility. Yeah. The fact that they are not they're not the world's greatest detectives, you know, that they are not perfect.
That they missed it.
And that they missed it, that they missed something so obvious, you know, and then, you know, Paul Dano's Riddler, like, Jesus, dude, I have no words. It just was
he
maniacal.
was more eerie without that mask and that
interrogation.
Without the mask.
Yes.
Without the mask. When he was in prison, that was terrifying. I'm like, dude, you're in cuffs, you're behind glass, and you are scary.
And he's even making Batman uncomfortable.
Ooh.
Like, you can already tell Batman's had his moments with the Joker. Surprise, surprise. The Joker made a brief cameo, but what I love about Reeves is, like, you will not see him in another movie.
Right.
To that extent. Like, we may do something on HBO Max with the Joker, but Joker's not meant for.
He's not going to be in a movie. We're not going to have Batman versus the Joker.
Yeah, it's like we've already seen that before.
Let's stop this. Yeah.
But just having
that to the animated films.
Yeah, but knowing that he's gone through that, and yet, you know, the Riddler is the one that's like giving him uncomfortable vibes.
Well, you know, but it's because and what a great scene, right? Bruce Wayne.
Yes.
Bruce Wayne, just like that scene, and you're like, oh.
Like, did he figure it out?
But no, the whole time he's just sitting there ashamed because he's like, fuck, he knows. You know what I mean? And he's saying it, and now everyone else is going to know. But then to realize him saying, you know, we got almost everybody and one got away, and that realism, that realization that like washes over him. He's like, he goes, oh shit. He's like,
you don't know me.
He goes, I'm still in the game here. I've still got this, you know? Yeah. And then, but also the entire time he's talking about this, and that, like, even though he says I'm in, you could see him realize he's back in this game. He's still got a dog in this fight. It's at that point where it gets real eerie, because now he realizes that the entire time he's been admiring Batman. It's like you said earlier, Ray, he's been admiring him, and he's been like, I look up to you because you're this vigilante and you're out there doing justice, and now I want to do the same thing. So I took it in my hands to do that justice. And it's just like, man, what an eerie moment, you know, to see that your intentions, you know, your intentions, while completely screwed up and cuckoo, were good. You've actually created more trouble than what you.
Or his line being thrown back in his face. I am vengeance. And he's like, oh, crap.
Exactly.
I did that.
Like that. That was just the second. That was like a further affirmation of the fact that he needs to change if he's going to do this. That he needs to be better.
I did like seeing Batman at the end of a movie for a change after a horrible events happened, helping, you know, first responders to get these people to safety.
Yes.
I actually enjoyed seeing that. It was
he's
like, it was a realization
genuinely trying to help. Yeah.
And he realized that's what he has to do too.
Yes.
Because up to this point, I want to go back to that scene here in just a second, or to the idea of him inspiring the Riddler. But to your point on that scene, it's also the change, because up to this point, he wasn't about helping people. He was about vengeance. Like, he didn't necessarily care that he saved the person on that train track.
It
He
was
was
about
just
hurting the
there to
people that
punish
was.
the evil,
Mhm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
He didn't think about the dude. This is that switch where he's like, no, I can't just be about vengeance. I have to be about actually helping the people, because if he had, the Riddler may not have even existed. Because that's the
Yeah.
entire. So let's go back to that point. It's like, that's the Riddler's entire point. He's like, I'm a victim here. He's like, I'm doing this because
Mm-hmm.
I was traumatized. I was victimized as a child. All the
Mm-hmm.
good ultimately the good your parents were supposed to be doing was washed away, and it became trauma to us. That's why when the only one Riddler acolyte whose face we see is the homeless guy at the beginning of the film.
Well, not at the
That's the
beginning,
whole.
in the middle.
Well, yeah, in the middle. Well, I think we see him at the beginning as well. I mean, he pops up like once or twice, but
Mm.
so we whatever. But the point is, we recognize him as the homeless guy from earlier in the film.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that's a really telling reveal, because they're saying it shows Batman's like, you're not going to solve this problem by punching every psychopath in the mouth. I mean, yeah, that may be useful, but that's
Mm-hmm.
not that. It's like, there are much larger problems that you need to solve as Bruce Wayne.
Yeah,
Because
a
and
hammer
it's
is not a tool to end all tools. You can't do everything with a hammer. There are other things out there you need to
yes,
use to build a house. I mean,
Well,
yeah,
and it's also important to note that he hasn't figured out that he needs the Bruce Wayne persona yet.
right,
yeah,
right.
He hasn't figured out.
He's not going to meetings. His shareholders or his board members are pissed off because they don't see
Money's
him
going
anymore.
everywhere. Like, this
Yeah,
is
he's blowing
him
everybody
just not.
off.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's not
yeah,
caring. But I like that. I like the fact that they're trying to figure out. He hasn't figured out he needs that side.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
This is
Yeah.
truly Batman stripped down. This is who he always will be. But
Yeah.
he needs to eventually have that playboy side. And I love the fact that,
mhm,
the first time he meets Falcone as Bruce,
Mm-hmm.
yes,
he's almost just as shocked and being like, wow, he was the only other person in this city that could cause such a, it's very,
Oh yeah, he's
you
like,
know
hey, I thought there was somebody else who's more reclusive than me. Well, he's
uh,
here. Yeah.
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 yeah,
And so
exactly. Well,
And
so I want to go back to that. Oh, sorry, please.
oh no,
well,
I was I guess we might as well touch on that scene too. I mean, I was gonna start talking about Zoe Kravitz and her
yeah.
Selena Kyle, but because she did again another amazing job. Like, still so crazy
Mhm,
that we have this many good characters in this film. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
the fact that, like, she is her background story.
yes,
It's just it is the most film noir tragedy of a classic story you can get. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And it's a
mhm,
mobster who knocks up a club girl, has the has she has the kid, turns out to be Selena, and then this whole thing is just like, this is such a good revenge. There's so much revenge and vengeance and everything throughout this entire film. That's like the theme for
yeah,
all these people is revenge. For
yeah,
everyone. Like, she hates Falcone. Batman can't
mhm,
stand everybody. The Riddler hates the establishment. It's just like, it's all that. You know what I mean? That's what everything is. But I mean, so Selena going through, like,
mhm,
she was a cat burglar, but she was never Catwoman. And I love the
Mhm.
fact that they never said that. I love that they never went into this detail and was like, "Oh, you're Catwoman." They didn't
yeah,
make it again. They didn't make it
Yeah.
unbelievable,
yeah,
because there's no reason for her to be named Catwoman in this. Cat
right.
burglar, maybe, but there
Or
was no
The
reason
cat,
for her to.
yeah.
Yeah, or the cat. Yeah, there was just no reason for anybody to say,
The
"Oh, so you're
whip
Cat."
made perfect sense too,
The
because
whip
it
made
yeah.
perfect sense.
in
Yes.
its
Or
context, it's like, well, okay, this is a good point. Okay, I do want to come back to the Riddler at some point, but it's the thing about her costume that I loved is it's such a, like you said, it's a practical thing, but it's such
Mm-hmm.
a big nod to year one. That the way
yep.
that they set up the mask, it's like the mask could have been a little different, but it's like, it's, if you look at how they depicted Catwoman in year one, it's very
Mm-hmm.
similar to what they did with Zoe Kravitz as far as how the mask feels on her face.
It was just like the
Um,
pull down to here or whatever, and it's just
it actually
like a
covers her nose and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
the
a
big
cutout
eyes. Yeah,
ski
yeah. It's
mask.
like,
It's a cutout ski mask, but
Yeah.
it's
yeah,
just like it's from here up, and
Yep.
it's like she's just
yeah,
pulling over her head. It's nothing fancy. It's not like, again, it was so practical, And I loved that it was so practical because it's so much more believable that way, you know?
Yeah.
Well, the fact that Bruce knows, like, well, let's even get past that point. The terror in her face when he asked her to go back into the heart of the club that she
Yes.
clearly doesn't want to go to,
Yeah.
and there's bad things that have happened there, and she knows that, which again pulls from that Batman Year One Frank Miller's thing of, you know, she was a prostitute, that she didn't want to be a prostitute, she wanted
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
more, but she got
Yeah.
trapped in that life, and you could tell that
Mm.
there was hints of that where in
Mhm.
that room bad things happened to her and she didn't want to get back to that, and here this person is asking her, and she knew it right away. Oh, you're asking me to be bait, that's what it sounds like. And
Yeah.
he's not
Yeah.
exactly
He
coy
didn't
about it. He's
deny
like,
it.
yeah. He goes,
Yeah.
I
He
need you to get
goes,
in there.
I need you to get in there. You're
Yeah.
my only, you're the only person I know who can get in there and see what I need to see.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was, and Zoe Kravitz did such a great job with that character.
Tremendous
Yeah.
actress, man. Tremendous actress. Again, the trauma is so, she did, like, it's so believable. She does such a good job portraying, all that bad shit that happened to her with Falcone, and the fact that she's rejected and grows up in this orphanage, or foster, whatever. And the fact that she was tossed away by her father. I mean, can you imagine, Bruce, Bruce lost his parents. Hers just absolutely was like, meh, what do I care?
All three of the costume
Yeah.
characters, all three of them orphans.
We're orphans.
Yes.
Yeah.
All of them orphans. Yes, all of them
All of
orphans.
them, and all from
Absolutely.
different viewpoints. All of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
The
very
one
much so.
person who had a very strong center of gravity in a corrupt system,
Oh,
as
was
always,
yeah.
Gordon.
Commissioner
And
Gordon.
Jeffrey
Oh,
White.
it wasn't even commissioner. It was just Gordon at
Yeah.
that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't
Yeah. He
even
was just
commissioner.
lieutenant.
He
Yeah.
nailed that persona.
Oh.
Probably had some of the
Mhm.
best lines in there with Batman. But one of my favorite ones was, "You could have pulled your punch." I did.
Yeah.
He's like, I did pull my punch.
Yeah.
And
You could've
I
put your punch a little. I did.
I loved them showing the not the interrogation, but Batman wakes up on this table in a
Yeah.
very confined cell full of a lot of cops.
Which goes to my only one problem with it, but I'll let you finish.
Okay, cool. But so he stopped, which I just mean, I know that would never happen, but still, he's in this room with all these cops and they're all standing around him. And it's like, he gets up and he's just as much a fighter against the cops as the cops are fighting him, but I liked when the cops clear out and he's like, let me talk to him. And you see all the police officers standing there with their hands on their hips or their hands on their guns, and they're looking in the room and they're watching through this glass, and they're up and he's up in his face and he's making it very pointed. So I mean, the look from the outside really did look like he was having a very he was giving Batman a stern talking to, and inside he's like, now listen, you're gonna take this key and you're gonna get out of here or they're gonna kill you, and it was, but they did it so well. You could really see it looked believable, and I loved it. Was funny because it was goofy. So still like okay, that makes sense that they're doing. Again, nothing really pulled me out of the believability in this. So
nothing pulled me out of the believability, but I do agree with a couple of comments that people said, and I'm like, I kind of see that.
Yeah.
We all know that the reason he didn't get his mask yanked off was because Gordon was in there saying, "Do not touch him. That is his identity. We're not here for that."
Exactly.
But having said that, you have that many cops. You're telling me not one goes,
not one said, I don't give a
Gordon.
shit. We're doing this.
Like,
yeah.
We're doing
well,
this.
we need. It's like we need to check him for. It's like we need to see if this dude's even still alive. You mean the EMS team wouldn't have just ripped off his mask and clothing to be like, we need to see if this dude's even alive?
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah. I mean, to your point, right? That may be the most unbelievable part of the whole film.
Oh yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that. And it did cross my mind. It was one that listen. We all pick and choose what's believable and what we forgive is believable. Yeah. I did, like the moment he's lying there, one of the cops goes, "Why don't we just take his mask off?" Like you can he hears the cop saying it, and I was like, instead in my mind I went, "You mean they haven't already taken his mask off?" Like that was what I thought. You mean they haven't already done this? Like
in my head, I'm placing that in the fact that Gordon's with him the entire time, and every time someone goes to do that, no, no,
Yeah.
that's what's going on in my head. So
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
It's
made
like,
me
don't touch
go,
him. Don't
okay,
touch him.
I can see that because it's
Right.
all Gordon, because Gordon's the
True.
one that's been protecting him this entire time.
True.
So that's
Yeah,
how
no, I
I
agree
got
with you on
past
that.
that moment. But there was that little quick moment of like, really? But I was like, oh, okay, Gordon's there. He's making sure that never happens.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
see it.
No, I get it. Again, it's there are aspects to the whole thing we have to, again, like the ability to. Every
Well, it's
movie,
any
these
movie.
people take beatings and they're getting up and walking around. I'm like, no, you don't get hit
Well,
that
but
hard
that's
and get up.
and
But it's part of the
and
convention, and I get it. So yeah,
yeah.
again, there's those lines you have to draw. But back to the Riddler, this movie had a lot of Easter eggs and homages to
Especially the
some.
66 Batman, which blew my mind.
Yeah, the number of homages to the
Ton of
66 Batman was
66 Batman references.
amazing. But the thing that it also really truly deep cuts to the Batman comics mythos. But the one that I liked the most was going back to the idea that the Riddler was inspired by Batman. There's always been in the comics this idea that Batman has brought, this argument's like, hasn't Batman brought all these psychopaths to Gotham, right? Like they are, and this is the first movie to really say, well, not really the first one. It's the one to do it in a way that makes sense, where it's like the Riddler was there. He already had his motivation, but his tactics were inspired by Batman, right?
Yeah.
It's like Batman becomes. They touched on this in the Dark Knight trilogy, where Batman's an escalation. It's like, yeah, things are bad enough that you need a Batman, but he's the positive escalation in a sense. The problem is there's going to be a negative escalation, and in the way they played the Riddler here was absolutely, again, the way that they fed this the original that commentary that people have always had with Batman in the comics. Like, is Batman ultimately causing more harm by inspiring more of
these
these
villains,
kinds of criminals?
these crazy criminals. Yeah, I mean, Nolan. I think, like you said, Nolan does touch on it with the Dark Knight and the Joker, because he does kind of say, like, you need me as much as I need you. We're equal. In that regard. But yeah, they definitely show you. But what I like about your comment is how much, like you said, he's inspired by him, and the fact that he's inspired by his tactics, and that he's doing this on his own and taking matters into his own hands to ambush people and to hide in the dark and cover his face and let him, the fact that they both wear those masks, they're more themselves than they ever have been because they have those masks on, that frees them up from this normal trapping of decency and responsibility and, social contract that you no longer have to abide by because you're covering your face and you're able to be just your deepest self. But he took it in the misguided sense, which Batman is always on that precipice of doing. Like, he's on that edge of just one wrong move, and he's immediately into full on just murderous rampage for whatever he sees fit. So he has to try
Affleck or
to,
Keaton.
You've got to try to keep, you've just got to try to keep your head about you and your wits about you and say, okay, the ethics. It's that ethics bit, and it's like Paul Dano. That the Riddler character didn't have any of those ethics. He just threw those out the window, and he's like, "Screw this! I'm gonna." And
he was unrestrained vengeance.
That's what I mean by that. It's like he had no. There was nothing. None of those trappings were keeping him back from just being selfishly vengeful on his own accord. He doesn't care about anybody else. He had no morals. He had no standards. I mean, he claimed to have morals, but they're his own misguided morals. It's the same idea of do as I say, not as I do. And that is something that Batman in this movie struggles with, is that perspective. Like,
where's that line?
Where's that line? Yeah, where does it lay?
The only line he knows not to cross is that murder line, which he even imparts with Catwoman.
Right?
Like, don't, and he tells her, don't cross that line. You'll never come back from it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was very. It's not. It's at minimum as good as the Dark Knight. I don't know if it's better than.
I liked it more than the Dark Knight. I absolutely. I think this was.
It's definitive. I'll say that.
It's
It's a definitive portrayal of Batman for sure.
It is a definitive.
Yeah.
It is a definitive Batman, and the reason I liked this more than that Nolan style is while Nolan gave us, one of the most realistic representations of Batman we'd ever seen. I am hugely partial to this type of detective film noir
Yeah,
stuff.
for sure.
Right.
The True Detective on HBO, the first season of that is a lot like this, and it's film noir style, and it's truly effed upness. I didn't say the whole word, but it's truly.
That's okay. You already broke the two limit rule anyway. Yeah.
When did I do 2? Oh well, whatever. It doesn't matter.
What doesn't matter?
So, but like those types of movies where they're very much an interesting detective, but it's not, and it's so many of these disturbed individuals. Like this was great. This was a great representation of Batman in that sense. And I mean, it gave you a real Gotham. It gave you a real feeling of pulling a comic book and putting it on the screen. When the film was over, the guy next to me, like Nathan and I are having like this conversation that we're talking about now about how good this movie was. And we're trying to be quiet and not be too loud about it, but the credits are rolling and everything's finished up. And the guy next to me leans over and he's like, he says, there's a like a run or a series or whatever. And he's like called Hush.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely referenced in this.
Exactly, which he said he's like they definitely pull a lot of the Joker's, ginger bait. When the hell did you do that? They pull that. I'm sorry. He's like they pulled that reference when apparently I guess the Joker or somebody says hush, or not the Joker. I'm sorry, the Riddler says hush to somebody, which I didn't really catch because I was like, I've never read the book, but I mean I know Ray specifically. I know you've mentioned that before to me or to us, and at least on this what is this called? Is this a show? Whatever this thing is.
Whatever Jason wants to name this. It's his podcast world. We're just living in it.
Whichever Jason's 4th podcast is, we're the 5th.
In fact, that's what we're going to change the name to now. Is
Jason's 5th podcast.
Jason's 5th podcast.
Podcast.
Jason's 5th podcast.
Hold on.
Not
let me get one.
Not just Hush, but Halloween.
This count as 5.
Oh, the Long Halloween. Okay.
It's the Long Halloween. Dark Victory.
Year
Hush, One.
Year one. A little bit of Court of Owls, and I think I hope they're setting up because they certainly, and that's a newer run. That's within the past 10 years. Run. But yeah, they pulled a lot of comic reference, which makes me happy. But how we see the Penguin portrayed here is very much in that it's actually the Batman series in Earth 1 that they have, which is they don't release issues for that universe. They release trades, just it's nothing but graphic novels. So it's 120-page issues, and a lot of material I think also came from there in that Earth 1 Batman.
That's cool.
The Falling, the getting shot in the chest with a shotgun comes from there as well. The way the Penguin's portrayed as a lot of Earth 1 Batman sprinkled in with everything else. So hats off to Matt Reeves and crew. And we didn't even get to touch on the score, which was fantastic for this movie. That made this movie as well.
Yeah.
If you guys, I mean, I've only seen it the one time. I'm going to need to see it a couple more times to really decide, I think, because I know it's going to change. But favorite scene?
God. I didn't even think about that. It's Ray.
I have to go 2 scenes. One, absolutely the Batmobile scene. From the start of the revving of the engine all the way through to him catching Oswald. My other favorite scene, man, it would be a tie between a lot of them. I think that Batmobile scene is probably my favorite one out of the movie. A close second is not the end, but him holding the kid's hand as they're airlifting him.
Yes, that was great.
Because he's probably realizing at that point too that's he just needs someone, and the fact that he's actually done enough good to earn the trust of that one child if nothing else, just to not make him scared.
Mhm.
I think that also was a good scene.
Jason.
Sean, what was your favorite?
Okay. All right.
Well, okay. So I mean, okay. I think I've got it. So here's my problem. I don't have one. The thing that I love about this movie is the small little. It's the small parts of each scene that that we've never seen in a live action Batman. Like when he's giving the contacts to Selena,
Mm-hmm.
and he's in a safe house across the street, and he's got the portable stuff all set up. Like it looks like something you would actually see a cop. It's little things like that I was my favorite aspect of the whole film. It's like because the problem is every scene, like again, it's like
Of course.
you mention a scene where that doesn't occur, where it's like every scene builds to the whole. And I think probably overall is the idea that the Gotham is an actual character in this film.
Yes.
Like in Burton, it is they're exaggerated set pieces, but they help tell the story. In The Dark Knight, it's just New York. But this one, it bridges that gap. It says it's a realistic world that they're in, but it's also as much of a character in this movie as everyone else.
Ray,
What?
Whatever you're doing, stop it. You're going to make my camera crash again. You're a jackass. So, all right. I kind of have two scenes as well. Look at my wavy hands magic. So I would say it's hard for me to really. There are so many good scenes in this movie. I really enjoyed, and it sounds weird to say it that way. I really enjoyed the scene of Batman interrogating the district attorney. While he's got the bomb on his neck.
Yeah.
And him solving the riddle with the Riddler, and the sheer terror of him the entire way. Like Batman picks up on the reference of he's not asking you to give him that answer. He wants you to know what you covered up. You need to tell him the answer.
He already knows whether you did it or not.
He knows whether you did it or not. He's asking you to tell him. And that scene of the two of them playing out those riddles together, and the terror on the district attorney, and the fact that he's going to get out of this if he can just get through this, and then hitting that moment where he's like, I'm dead. I'm not going to say. If I say, they kill everybody. And him knowing that he's like, I'm dead either way. But at least this way, it's only me.
Yeah.
So I mean,
it's not my family.
That was a huge compelling scene for me, because it shows you finally somebody who is alive and who is at the hands of the mercy of the Riddler at this point. You know what I mean? Like, that was a huge deal for me.
I also love the fact that Batman stayed.
He stayed. He didn't
Not only
leave.
did he stay, but he also he knew that his costume could take it, but he also knew he had to cover his face.
Oh yeah,
that was not covered in order to not get more damage.
Not get blown up. Yeah, like severely injured and really physically scarred and damaged. Yeah. So I mean, that was one. The other scene is like, I just remember being so pulled into the moment with the Riddler in prison and Batman, and that exchange between the two of them being such an amazing thing. But if I have to go with something that isn't an acting scene, it's absolutely the fight outside of the elevator that is fully lit by muzzle flash.
Yes.
That was
what we will call the Daredevil hallway scene with Batman.
But the deal is, Matt Reeves people have already asked, and he's like, no, that's 100% authentic. That was full on actual muzzle flash lit by the weapons. They didn't digitize that. They didn't add anything in. They didn't come back and do, maybe they did touch-ups. They could have easily, who knows. But 100% they lit that. They said it was a practical shot. The hallway was dark, and they lit the whole thing with guns. And I was just like, dude, this was that's from a cinematography standpoint. I'm a very visual person, and that was amazing.
Practical effects go a long way.
Oh,
Mhm.
100%. 100%.
I think we've about loved on this movie as much as we can at the moment.
I don't know. I'm going to
And
go rub one out to it here in like 5. So
Okay, I wasn't gonna go that far, but yeah.
I'm just kidding. It's going to be like 10 or 15, but still.
On that note, Jason, do you want to start signing this off, man?
Sure, since this is my 136th podcast for the week. Thank you for joining us. And we appreciate you putting up with this long show as we fangirled all over the Batman, which is it's absolutely due every praise it can be given. And of course, Sean's going to give it some more praise here in just a few minutes. But be here next time, whenever that next time happens to be, when we explore something else geeky. And of course, in the meantime, do go say hi to Jeremy over at Titan Comics. He's our favorite he's our favorite conger eel. He's our favorite comic monger. All of this stuff is in the dibbly doo below. He has all of the finest geeky accoutrement for the nerd in your life. Until next time, if you'd like to email us, though I don't know why you would, it's vagabondnerds@gmail.com. And other than that, just be a solid human moving forward. Like,
Be
Yeah,
excellent
for sure.
to each other. Yep.
yeah,
Sure.
be excellent to one another. Yeah.
Well wishes to those who are out there suffering. But yeah,
Mhm.
party on, dude.